My name is Kelly Dale with Off the Beaded Path, and today is Monday, November 2nd, 2020. Hope you're having a great day so far, and I hope you've had a wonderful weekend. You can see here, I got my hot mess, just doing my best hat on today, and that's what I feel like today. I'm a hot mess, just trying to do my best, so we're going to get through this video today. But basically, I hope you're ready to learn something new, because today we're going to talk about something that hasn't been talked about in a little while, and that's carrier beads. Specifically, a cheetah print or a leopard print carrier. Leopard print is everywhere right now. Leopard print, cheetah print, giraffe print, animal prints are everywhere. And I wanted a bracelet to wear with some of my animal prints, but I didn't necessarily want just a peyote stitch bracelet. So I thought, let's do some carriers. So I came up with 3 different carrier bead patterns. So I've got 2 narrow carrier bead patterns and then a double carrier bead pattern. So these are all patterns that you can purchase on my website, which is offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. Now, if you'll remember last year before, I think it was 2 years ago now, I've done 2 videos on carrier beads. I've done an even count carrier bead pattern video, and I've done an odd count carrier bead pattern video. Whew, that's a mouthful. So if you need help learning how to do the singles in either of those, you can find the links for those videos down below me in the little drop down box. We'll link it to that so you can see it. Today specifically, I'm going to be talking about the double carrier bead. So I'll show you really quickly. So if you go to my website, this is leopard cheetah print carrier bead 1. So this one is done in even count peyote stitch. Okay. That one is 3 pages. Then you have cheetah print, leopard print 2. This is a narrow one done in even count. And then the third one, which is the one we're going to be doing today, which is the double print. Okay, this is number 3. This is what we're going to do today. This is an odd count one. You can see it's much wider. It's double than the other 2. Okay, so that's why we're going to talk about this one, because it actually uses 2 carrier beads. And when I did videos on the carriers, nobody had really been doing the double ones yet, so that's why I wanted to show you in case you had never seen those before. So let's go ahead and talk about the beads you're going to need and what a carrier bead is if you have no clue what I'm talking about. So this is what we're going to be doing today. You can see here we have the narrow beads and the double beads. They are 2 of these basically. Now you'll notice that these 2 beads are exactly the same, but they look different, and it's because of just where I've put them actually on the carriers. So you can change the look of each carrier just by where you actually put the strip of peyote on the bead itself. So let's talk about what a carrier bead is. If you've never heard of it before, originally a carrier bead was an acrylic rectangle bead that has 2 holes, and you can see the holes there. The carrier bead itself is about 3/4 of an inch and a little over a 1/4 inch wide. Okay, almost a 1/2 inch, not too far from it. So that is what a normal carrier is. Now, after they made these acrylic ones, then they also made glass ones. They're a little bit of a different width and length, so you may have to alter the pattern if you use glass carrier beads. All right, these carriers come in all different colors. I'm specifically using this brown color here, so that way I can, make it look good with what I'm doing. I've used the brown here. You can also use black, but really any color will work. So no worries and no problems there. So the colors that you're going to need today, my A here is DB 1152, which is like a matte champagne, and you need 178 of those beads to do 1 double bead here. Okay. Color 2, which is number B, is DB 310, which is matte black, and my third color, color C, is DB 2142. Okay, so these are the 3 colors that you need, and again, the numbers here are how many you need for 1 double bead. So to make this whole bracelet, you need about 8 grams here. And then I think it was 4 grams and 3 grams, somewhere around that is what you would need if you wanted to make a complete bracelet like this one. So in addition to your carriers and your seed beads, you're also going to need some E6000 glue. I have used a 0.7 Stretch Magic to actually string it with because I wanted a stretchy bracelet. And in between them, I've just put some 6mm smoked Topaz Bicones. Okay, so this is what we're doing, and this is what you're going to need. So I am going to start out with 2 yards of thread. So I'm using a size 10 needle. You can use a 10 or a 12, and I've got 2 yards of thread. Now today I'm using a 1G. I'm just using my brown 1G. You can use Fireline, you can use Nymo, whatever you have, it's completely up to you. Now, if you get the patterns from offthebeadedpath beadstore.com, you will notice here that, again, this is a double, so this is my bead chart. So if I want to follow bead by bead, I can do it that way. Or if you go to the next page, you will see your word chart. So I'm actually going to kind of pull the thing back here so that you can screenshot this for the wide bead itself. Okay, so if you are interested in purchasing anything and you just want to look at it, that's page 1, or no, that's page 2, and then your page 3 here. So that gives you time to screenshot the colors. So let's talk about actually what this chart means if you don't know how to follow the chart. So you have your word chart, and it says rows 1 and 2. So these are our first 2 rows. The number in parentheses, that is the number of beads you're going to pick up of the letter. So I would pick up for this first row 4 A's, 2 C's, 1 B, and 6 A's. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, because this is an odd count, I am going to go ahead and leave myself a tail to do that turnaround. So again, I'm going to put on 4A, 2C, 1B, and 6A. Now, when I pull these beads down, I need to make sure to leave myself enough of a tail thread that I can do the turnaround with the tail thread. If you do the figure 8 turnaround for odd count peyote, you won't have to worry about leaving this long of tail, but I am going to leave about 12 inches of tail here. Okay, so I'm just going to hold my beads in place just because I'm used to it. So now if you'll notice here, row 3, so this is row 1 and 2, so row 3, we're going to pick up 3A, 1B, and 3A. So what this means is that one at a time, I'm going to pick up 3 total A's. So I'm going to pick up 1A, and working back the other direction, I'm going to skip an A and go through an A. So you see I did not even let this bead fall down, and I'm skipping an A and going back through the A. And I'm going to keep my finger on it. I'm going to pull it through. And when I do, you'll see my beads kind of lay like this. We want them to lay on top of each other, so if you have to make them kind of do what they need to do, you can do that. So that was my first one. So now my second bead here. So I pick up 1, I skip 1. So I'm coming out of this bead, I skip 1, and I go through 1. Hold my beads in place with my finger, pull, and you'll see now I have that. Okay, so now my third A of that set, because it said I'm going to pick up 3 A's. So I pick this one up, I skip 1, and I go through 1. Put my finger on it, pull it through, just like that. Okay, so it was 3 A's, 1 B. So I'm going to pick up 1 B. I'm going to skip a bead and go through the next bead. So I'm skipping a B and I'm going through a C. Put my fingers on it, pull it through. Okay, now 3A. So I'm going to pick up 1A. I'm going to skip 1 and go through 1. Put my finger on it and pull. Pick up one. Skip one and go through one. Now, you'll notice here, I still have one more A that I have to pick up, but there's nothing for me to skip and go through. So this is where the tail thread comes into play. I'm going to wrap the tail thread around my finger. Okay, I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to loosen up this thread just a little bit, just enough to get my needle under there. And I'm going to go under that thread there, okay? Now I'm going to go ahead and pull this thread on through, and I'm going to be careful. You'll see I do not want this bead to go under my tail thread. So I'm going to pull it through, and I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come back through that A that I just added, and I'm going to hold it in place and pull so that it looks just like this. Now, before I go any further, just because I forgot to a second ago, I'm going to take 2 of my carrier beads. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look through the holes and make sure that my holes are not plugged up, and they're not. So I'm going to use my glue here. I'm going to use my E6000 glue. I'm going to put just a little dot of glue here in the center where those 2 holes are at. And you see here I just did just a tiny little dot of glue. And I'm going to glue these together side by side, just like this. Now I'm going to not lay them down on my bead mat in case any glue kind of seeps up or down, and I'm just going to lay them off to the side here. Okay, so for this instance, I'm just going to lay them right here. Okay, and so what we're doing is while we stitch this up, we can let these be drying so that we can work with them. So this is what I want it to look like. So I'm going to take my 2 little beads here now, and I'm going to set them to the side of my desk over here. So that way I don't knock them off and knock them in the floor and have just a big mess. Okay, so we did row 1 and 2. We've done row 3, so I'm going to put a little mark there so that I know I've done those rows. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to mark row 4 because that's what we're doing right now. So it's A, or 2 A's, 1 B, 1 A, 1 B, and 1 A. So I'm going to start working back this direction. And I'm going to pick up 2A, so it's 1A. I'm coming out of the bead here, and I'm going to come through the next bead sticking up on that row. So I'm just going to hold that in place and pull. So now another A. I'm going to go through the bead sticking up. A B. And I'm going to go through the next bead sticking up here. So it was an A, 2 A's, a B, now an A, a B, and an A. So, A, B, and an A. So this row, I'm working just a regular peyote stitch, just adding my beads and working across on my pattern. Now, my next one here is going to be A, 2B, 2A, 1B, and 1A. So 1, let's see, whoop, about pick that up, 1A. So I pick up my A, and I'm going to work back towards my tail now, and I'm going to go through the first bead sticking up here on the row. So I'm going to hold it in place there. Okay, 2 B's. So I pick up 1 B and go through. Pick up 1 B and go through. Okay, now I need 2 A. So I pick up 1 A, go through. 1 A, go through. Okay, now a B and an A. So I pick up a B, and now when I pick up this B, you'll notice that now I have to pick up an A, but there's nowhere for me to add this A. We can't skip one and go through one basically. So this is where we have to do that turnaround. So I pick up the A. This is my tail thread. So I take my needle and I go under that tail thread and I keep it kind of tight here because I do not want the bead to go under my tail thread. It needs to stay on this side of the tail thread. So now I just take my needle and I come back through that bead again. I'm going to hold it in place and I'm going to pull so that now this is what I've got. So I finished row 5. So now what I would continue to do is I'm going to continue to go down my rows, doing all of the rows. And again, I'm going to leave it here on the screen for just a second so you can see it. Okay, then I'll continue all the way down to row 43. And then I will do the next page, which will finish out my rows. So you want to do all 52 rows to be able to make it to the length that we need to go around our peyote or our little carrier bead. So you go ahead and continue to stitch, and I'll continue to stitch, and I'll be right back to show you how to finish off your little strip. Once you finish your odd count peyote strip, this is what your piece should look like. It should be about this long and this wide. Okay, so when you get to the end, you have 2 threads. You have your working thread and you have your tail thread. So I've got a needle onto my tail thread here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to stitch through to get rid of this tail thread. Okay, so I'm just going to stitch through beads, and it's kind of one of those things. It doesn't matter how you do it as long as you don't see thread. So you'll see that I'm just going up and down through several beads here to get rid of this thread. This is basically how we're going to do both threads. It just makes it easier if you go ahead and get rid of this short tail thread before you start to zip your piece up. Okay. So I know that that's secure, so now I'm going to take and I'm going to get rid of that short thread. So now I am left with my working thread. So this is where I'm going to pull my little 2 beads back out, and you'll see now that they're dry enough to work with. They're held together, and I made sure that the holes were lined up when I did it. So these are set and good to go. Now I can take and I can fold this piece over, and I can zip it here. I can zip it up here, you know, kind of wherever you want to, you can zip this piece up. Now, what I'm going to do before I do that, you'll either want to use glue dots, like scrapbooking glue dots, or you can use some of the E6000 glue. In my original videos for regular carrier beads, I used the glue dots, but I'm just going to use some E6000 glue. So I'm just going to put just a little dab of glue and kind of spread it here on the back. And then I'm going to lay this down onto my piece. Now, if you want to, you can take and you can put just a little dab in each corner. It doesn't take much, okay? Just a little bit. And like I said, you can use the glue dots, whatever you want to do. But I'm just going to go ahead and fold this piece together. Okay, so you'll notice here how it looks like teeth and how it's like zigzag, like a zipper. So my thread is coming out of this bead here at the top. So I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come through that same bead here at the bottom, so directly across. So if I hold it this way, I'm coming out of this bead here on the right. So I'm going to go through the bead here on the left, and I'm going to pull that. Now I'm going to come across and I'm going to go through the next bead sticking up on the right, which is going to be this bead. And if you want to, at this point now, you can pull everything nice and tight so that it pulls together. So now I'll come to the next bead on the left sticking up, which is going to be this bead here. Okay. Then the next one on the right sticking up. And I'm just going to zigzag back and forth, going left to right, right to left, just pulling these beads in place and zipping it up like I would a zipper. This allows you to be able to not see where you zipped it up. And again, right to left, left to right, just going through the next bead, sticking up on your strip on each side. Okay, so when I get to the top and I go through my last bead here on the left, you'll notice that there's thread connecting each of the beads except for this one here. So we have to finish out our connection. So we're going to go down through the bead on the right and then up through the bead on the left. So this will finish up the connection of those two beads so that now you have your carrier bead, your double carrier bead. So if you look at it like this, it just kind of looks like blobs of brown and black. But once you get it all put together, it looks like the print. So it looks really, really nice. So at this point, you can just take now and you can get rid of this thread. Now I'm going to get rid of this thread exactly like I did that tail thread. I'm just going to stitch through several beads to get rid of thread here. And then once I feel like I've gone through enough beads and I've gone through them different directions, then I will go ahead and cut off this thread. Okay, so this is the part, sometimes I feel like this takes me almost as long to do as the whole little carrier bead itself, but you don't want to skimp on this part because you do not want your piece to come apart. After you've put the time into it, you definitely don't want to be wearing it and it come apart. So I'm pretty happy with its security now, so I'm going to take and trim it. So at this point, if I wanted to move it anywhere onto my bead, I can kind of roll it. Since my glue is not dry, I can kind of roll it to be where I want it to be, and then I can actually string it onto whatever I want to string it onto. So now I've kind of got my bracelet laid out the way I want it to look. Now you'll notice one thing that's different from the carrier bead we made today versus the ones you see here is, if you'll notice, you'll see a space in these. I did not like that space, so that's why I went and I filled that space in on the revised pattern. So you won't have any kind of gaps there where those holes are. So I'm using a 0.7 millimeter Stretch Magic to string these on. And I'm going to start out on one end and just string one hole. So I'm going to start with my bicone. So it's a bicone and then the top hole. And then a bicone and a top hole. And I just go through. I can make as many of these beads as I need, or as few of them as I need. I can make as many of the doubles or as few of them, you know, kind of whatever I want to do to make whatever you want. This is just a quick and easy bracelet that I wanted to have to wear. So I'm just going to thread all of these on here. Now, it doesn't have to be, this is a 6 millimeter bicone. It does not have to be a bicone that you put on. It can be anything that you want to go in between it. It can be a round bead. It can be a square bead. It can be a 2 millimeter, a 3 millimeter, a 4 millimeter, a 6 millimeter, 8 millimeter, kind of whatever you want to go in between it. I just put in the 6s because I wanted a little bit of space in between my beads here. but you know, it's completely up to you what you do to put into them. So I started with a bicone here, and I ended with a bead. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trim that, and I'm going to tie these two threads together. So I'm going to tie it, and then I'm going to kind of put my fingers in here, and I'm going to tie it again, and I'm going to put it like twice through and pull. And then 1, 2. So I'm going to put me a couple of knots in here. Pull it really tight, because if it's going to break, this is where you would much rather, if you're making this for somebody, you would much rather it break now than when somebody's wearing it. So you can see here, I'm going to trim it just a little bit and set those to the side. So now I'm going to take a new piece of thread, and I'm going to start in that same spot. So let me find where my little knot, okay, so there's my knot, and I can trim these a little bit shorter, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to thread through the first bead here, the second hole, the open hole. I'll put on a bead and thread through the next hole. And then all I'm going to do each time around, I'm going to put on a bead and go through the next hole of my carrier bead. Now we carry all sorts of colors of these carriers, and one pack of carriers will be enough. If you're going to make a bracelet, it will be more than enough to do a bracelet, and you will have some left over. All right, so I'm getting back around here. So I'm going to put on my bicone, go through my last carrier. Now I'm going to thread on one more bicone bead. And then I'm going to trim. And now I'm going to tie these two threads together just like I did the others. So I'm going to tie, and I'm going to put my fingers in here, and then I'm going to do twice and pull through, twice, pull through, do it one more time here, pull it, trim it, and now I have a beautiful new carrier bracelet with this cheetah / leopard print. And so like I said, you can get all of these different beads, a double bead or a single bead, and it will make a beautiful finished piece. So guys, I hope you enjoyed learning how to make the double carrier bead. Remember, you can get the carriers, you can get the patterns, and you can get all the other supplies you would need for this project on my website at offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. Now, just know that if you're not super familiar with carrier beads, if you purchase the instant download pattern for the cheetah print carriers, you also get the pattern for even count carriers and odd count carrier beads. All right, so along with the three patterns, you get 5 total. I do have a limited number of kits for these. I don't have a whole lot left because I sold out a lot this weekend of these. So just know that I do have some kits. If we sell out, I promise you we will restock as soon as we can. But otherwise, we should have everything else that you need. Now, I know I'm going to get asked, so I'll go ahead and tell you the earrings that I have in today. These are the Oculus earrings. They are on a video on our YouTube page, or we also have the instant download pattern on our website. The bracelets that I have on today, these are the Everybody's Hubbling bracelet. Again, the video is on our YouTube channel. Pattern is on my website. The ring that I have on today is actually a crochet ring that I purchased at an art fair about 8 or 10 years ago. And I found it amongst all my jewelry this morning, and I said, what an awesome thing to wear with my hot mess hat. And it goes great with my hot mess mug that Carol purchased for me. So guys, I hope you have a fabulous day. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back next week because we're going to learn how to make an awesome charm bracelet just in time for the holidays. So for Christmas, I have a Christmas sample, I have a Hanukkah sample, and you know, you can pretty much do it for anything, but we're going to do it for holidays. So I hope you guys have a great week. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.